Hello and welcome to ITECH 100. A quick tour of the Windows 10 interface. We're just going to go over some of the basic interface things that you want to look at. I think it's useful to know that the basic design philosophy behind Windows is very similar to most other operating systems that are on the market today. They follow what's called a WIMP interface. They use windows, icons, like these buttons down here, menus, like this one here, and this one here, and a pointer to interact with all of them. Think of the pointer as like your hand. It's your ability to reach out onto the screen and touch things. If you have a touch screen or something that you can use, then you can use your actual finger as the pointer. So the metaphor is of a desktop. We have multiple windows. Here's a Word. I have a Word window, Microsoft Word, and I have a web browser, Google Chrome, and these are, you think of them as like sheets of paper on a desktop. I can move them in front of each other by clicking on them, and there is a depth. They're layered, so they're on top of each other. They even put a little shadow here as a visual indicator that this is underneath that. So that's something that Microsoft has done, and pretty much every other operating system does as well. It's just a way of, it's sort of the metaphor of that the Windows interface adheres to. Let's go back to my notes. So let's kind of look around what we've got. So on the desktop, you might have a number of icons. I've cleaned mine off so that all I have is the recycle bin at the top. And so you'll see a number of icons here, probably. You can double click on any of them to open them up. So double click on that, and that opens up my recycle bin, which is empty. Then each of these windows will have its own features and interfaces. They usually will exist in the desktop area, which is most of the screen. This is your main work area, and so it takes up like 90% of the screen. Along the bottom is sort of your main interface tool, and we're going to actually go from right to left. So on the right hand side you have your system tray. So this has all sorts of little doodads and widgets that you can use to give you some information about your system and the apps that are running in the background. There's the system time, which you can click on. You can see your calendar. You can open up the system tray, which shows a bunch of apps that might be running. I can close them by right-clicking on them. So I encourage you to check this out. Click on these things and see what they do and see what they are. You'll probably have different ones than I do. If you have a laptop from a specific company, they might have some preloaded software that's specific to their brand, things like that. Along the bottom, you'll have a bunch of other icons that will probably be different from the ones that I have. These are the ones that are pinned to this long bar called the taskbar. So the taskbar can show you which apps you can open with a simple click. Like I can open Firefox with a click, and I can open a file manager with just a simple click. And I can open, Steam or whatever. The ones with the blue lines are the ones that are currently open. So as you can see, I have several apps that are already open so that I can record this video. And so that gives you a quick visual indication of what's going on your computer right now, and quick access to your most used apps. So as you can see, and then if I want to activate one of those windows in particular, I can activate the Word window or the Chrome window just by clicking on it. To open a new one, say if I wanted to open Steam, I can hit the Steam icon and that'll bring up all my video games. On the far left is probably your most useful tool, which is the Start button. If you click on that, that brings up a list of every app that's installed on the computer. You can scroll through it using the mouse wheel, and it will show you icons for all of the different apps that you have available in alphabetical order, and then recently added ones, and then ones that you happen to use a lot. Here you'll probably see, I've cleaned mine out because I don't really use most of the, I don't even really use this one. I don't use this. This is what Microsoft calls the Metro UI. I don't use it a whole lot, but you might find it useful. You know, you can put like Microsoft Word on there. I guess I can't. You can add more stuff to this if you want. Also importantly, you can access, by hitting this little hamburger icon here, you can get to your account information, your documents folder, your downloads folder, and then you can get into the control panel by clicking on settings, and of course turn off your computer. And of course you can get to them without clicking the hamburger, but the hamburger tells you what those things are. One really useful thing you can do is when you click on the start button is you can start typing and it will find the app that you type. So this is a great way to open up an app that you want to use right now. Alternately, you can hit the Windows key on your keyboard. It's on the lower right hand or lower left hand corner of your keyboard usually, and it's right next to the control key. If you hit that, it'll automatically open up your start menu, and then you can do things like type Excel. If you type something and it isn't a pre-installed app, then it will what it'll do is it'll do a web search using Bing, which is of dubious usefulness. Other than that, that's kind of the basic rundown of all the things. You might actually have a search bar right here. I have it deactivated because I don't use it much, but it is kind of useful to have. One thing that you might find useful is if you only have one screen to work with, a useful tool is to be able to, especially for this class, if you have a tutorial in open and you have a document that you're working on open, you can actually drag any one window all the way to the edge of the screen until you see this little gray box appear, and then let go, and then it'll fill half the screen, and then I can click on another window in that little menu that pops up, and that'll fill the other half of the screen with that other document or window. So you can easily kind of multitask and have two things side by side if you have limited screen real estate. So that's about it for the basic Windows interface. I encourage you to kind of like click on everything, play around with things, find out what they do. If you want to change like your desktop background, you can right click on the desktop. So out here on a bare desktop, you can do things like personalize. You can change your screen background. You can change your display settings or whatever. Especially if you have multiple monitors, you may need to be able to do something like that. But that's the basic rundown of all the things that you can do with Windows 10. I encourage you to check it out, play around with it, see what you can find